Hi, Editing Meadow here. So just before I start this video, I just want to put it out there. I filmed in front of my window for this video, then I wore my glasses. And I thought that I would be able to avoid a glare on my glasses if I looked a certain way. I was like, if I angle down here, I'm fine. I was not fine. I move my head way too much when I talk, and so there's a little bit of a glare throughout the video. But we can just all agree to ignore that, right? So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. We're just gonna ignore that for the entirety of the video. Let's just get into it. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Meadow Marie, and I'm an independent fantasy and romance author. Now I'm gonna be honest with all of you right now. This is my 4th time trying to record this video. I definitely put too much pressure on myself to make my videos come out at a certain time every week, and even though I had already posted it on my community board saying that this video is going to be late this week, I still rushed to make sure that it wasn't too late, and then the video just didn't end up being a good one. So I am filming this for a 4th time, and I'm going to take it easy, take it slow, and actually put out a video that I'm going to be proud of. I just want to be transparent about my content and what it takes to film and edit and post as a creator online. Today's video is going to be talking about my experience with self-publishing. For any who don't know, I self-published my first 2 novels. It was something I decided to do after traditional publishing didn't work out for me the first time around. I have some experience with self-publishing now, and in indie publishing. I'm just gonna probably use self-publishing for this video. I'm going to walk through the process that I took from when I started writing to hiring an editor and doing my formatting and cover. I think it's really important for people who are looking to self-publish or just trying to find out if self-publishing or traditional publishing is right for them to learn from as much experience as possible. For instance, I'm a Canadian who lives in the province of Ontario, and so my taxes are different, the pricings of services are different, ISBN numbers work differently here, so keep that in mind while I talk about my journey. First up is writing. I started writing my first book back in February of 2020. At the time, it was a simple story that I had thought about for quite a while. I finally decided to sit down and start writing it. The book was very different back then. For a long time, it didn't even have a title. I'm really bad at titling things, mind you. I guess I shouldn't say I'm bad. Eventually I come up with good titles, but for a very long time, my writing projects are just called something very simple. So for instance, this story was in all my documents just titled Royal Story because it dealt with royalty. So this royal story was something that I wrote for many years. It took 5 years for the whole process to get done. It went through many iterations, many drafts. At the time, my 2 books, King in the Clouds and Queen in the Shadows, were actually one book combined. That's what this first book was called. So I have a book written, right? I can't remember how many drafts I went through before I hired an editor. It must have been 4 or 5, I want to say. I went through a lot of drafts before I even thought about hiring an editor. For one, the word count wasn't anywhere near where a typical word count, especially for a fantasy novel, was. I'm an underwriter for sure. It's only up until recently where I've been able to write full-length drafts. And so it took me quite a few years of just writing and rewriting and revising to even consider hiring an editor. But eventually I did. I started looking online for different editors to hire. I wish I could remember where I ended up finding my editor. I'm sure it was a resource online, but it's so many years ago now that I genuinely forget. But I inquired with a couple of different editors that I thought would match my novel pretty well, and I found one that was excited to read my story. I worked with her on my manuscript. It was a lot of developmental edits and some copy edits as well. I paid out of pocket for her services. Editing services can feel very complicated and confusing, but really, there's a few different phases. You have developmental edits, which are edits that go for clarity, for plot. They really look at it through a reader lens and trying to point out what structure isn't quite right, what should be changed in order to make it more clear and concise from a reader's perspective. There's also copy edits, which is a lot to do with grammar and spelling and the more nitpicky sentence structure. then there's also proofreading, which is a final look at it as well. She helped me with both developmental and copy edits, and then the proofreading I ended up doing mostly on my own. So that's what happened with my editor. I hired her, paid her out of my pockets, and then we ended up getting my manuscript to where I wanted it to be. Next came my cover artist. So I ended up hiring my sister to do my cover for me. She is a visual artist. This was her first time ever doing a book cover, and this isn't something that she does professionally. She ended up charging me not as much as a typical cover artist will charge. So really look into what you want to do for a cover artist. You want someone who is going to make your vision come to life. I think it's incredibly important to have a good cover. As much as we all try to say, don't judge a book by its cover, we all do. It is the first thing we see when we pick up a book off a shelf, right? Either like the cover itself, but also the spine, especially if the spine is what's out and that's the first thing that grabs a reader's attention. You're going to want to make sure that that is going to be something that makes them pull the book off the shelves. If you're going to get anything out of this video, really make sure that you hire a good editor and a good cover artist, because those are going to be the things that people see first. They're going to see the cover, right? That's going to pull them in. But if they buy this book or they start reading this book, and no matter how good your stories are, your characters are, your prose, if there's grammatical mistakes, if there's spelling errors, whatever it may be, it might not be enough in order to keep the people reading. So it's really, really important that you get, I think, both of those things. Once you've got your manuscript ready and your cover, it's now time to start formatting. So for me, I did all my formatting for my first book all on my own. I was watching a couple videos and some tutorials myself to figure out what would work in terms of the line spacing, the font size, the page numbers where I wanted them. I actually ended up looking at a lot of books that I really enjoy. I think I was looking at Six of Crows, and there's a couple others as well, where I was looking at where they put their page numbers, because you could put them at different spots, right? You could put them in the corner, either corners, you could put them in the center at the bottom, center at the top. And then also I was looking at which side of each page the author name and the title of the book name goes for the headers. So I was taking a look at the books that I enjoy reading and inputting that into my own manuscript. I ended up deciding on putting my page numbers in the center. I thought that looked the cleanest to me. All of this formatting I did myself, just in my Google Docs page. I ended up printing out some ARCs online. I'll go into more about the publishing in a moment, but I ended up printing out ARCs, and I was trying to figure out what size of the pages that I wanted. I printed out a couple different sizes of ARCs because I really wanted to see what would work, what I wanted for my books. So the first ARC that I ended up printing was this one right here. This one is a little bit bigger than I ended up wanting it to be, just like size-wise. I can't remember the measurements for this, but this is the book that I ended up printing first, and it also has a matte cover. I don't know if it really shows up, but this is the ARC that I ended up printing first. Is this the one that I have my edits in? Oh, it is. So this one I actually ended up using. It was really great for me to see line spacing as well. So my line spacing was too big in this copy. I didn't like how wide the line spacing was. And then this one I actually ended up using as a edit as well, because I hadn't physically edited this manuscript until this time. And so when I finally saw it printed, this was my proof copy essentially to do my edits. And so after I printed this and I did all the edits on it, I then imported those changes and I made my second ARC, which was this guy right here, which is essentially what the ending cover ended up looking like. So this one is a little bit shorter. Yeah, actually, I should just bring this one back. This one's a little bit smaller, as you can see, and it has more of a glossy cover. I think that's noticeable on camera. So this is what I ended up going with for the final cover. I liked the gloss and I liked the size of this one a little bit more. And then, yeah, so this is my copy of the book right here. This is what the book ended up looking like after I ended up printing it. So that's what I ended up doing for formatting. It takes a couple of tries, but it's something that was really helpful to see, and it made sure that my books were ready on publishing day. So I should probably actually talk about the publishing, huh? The publishing that I ended up doing is using the Kindle Direct Publishing program. This is a program through Amazon that allows you to publish a book on your own. It's a pretty accessible program. everything is free on it, and you don't really have to do much on your own other than the formatting of the book. They do everything for you, and so that's how I ended up printing my ARCs, is that there's a way for you to do an author copy. And so while I was setting it up, I had done the different settings, the different page sizes, and that sort of thing. Printed them, sent them to myself, and that's how I got my ARCs, so I could see what I wanted for the final version. Or the proof copies or author copies are always cheaper than what you sell them for. They charge you for the cost of printing. So for my books, they were $6, I believe. So that's something that you want to factor in as well, is if you want to make sure that your formatting and your ARCs are good, then you're going to want to factor that in. It really depends on the length of the book. Mine are a little bit smaller in comparison to other fantasy novels. They're about 300 pages. If you have longer books, they're going to end up costing you more. Even though KDP is pretty accessible, I actually kind of regret going through that program, and I'll go through my process why. One of the things with KDP is that they will give you a free ISBN number. That's the little barcode number on the back of every book, so it's in all the systems. If they give you a free ISBN number, it is only usable for them, like through Amazon. And so I ended up having an issue when I recorded the audiobook for my first novel, King of the Clouds. I then needed an ISBN number for it, but the only one I had, because it was for KDP, I couldn't use it. So I actually had to register for a whole other ISBN number. Another issue with this is that it means that other retailers typically won't take your book in person or on their websites online. Sometimes there's a workaround. I have worked out a deal with one of my local bookstores, and they've been so kind as to have 2 copies on hand with them. For the most part, they don't want to have your books in person or on their site, because Amazon is the reason why independent bookstores are struggling at times. As much as the company is pushing and allowing self-published authors into the market, they're also a big company that is selling books at a cheaper price and not allowing local independent bookstores to thrive. My morals have since changed, and I don't love that my book is only available on Amazon. But at the same time, because it was so accessible, it meant that I could publish my first novel. That's incredible. So I would just say, before you make any decisions in your journey, do some research, because there are other online platforms that allow you to publish your novel on your own and make it available to other retailers. KDP is not the only option. So all I'm saying is that before you do anything, do research. Research, research, research. You can never be too prepared to self-publish your novel. But anyway, so that is how I published my first novel, was through the KDP program. The second time around for my second novel, which is this one right here, Queen in the Shadows. This novel I ended up publishing with a small indie press here in Canada. They helped me through the process of publishing this novel. The writing and editing process was the same. I hired the same editor this time around because she knew the story already, and this is a direct sequel to my first one. But from there, I changed paths a little bit. The independent press actually helped me with formatting. I was really grateful the second time around to have someone help me with formatting. It's really up to preference. The publishing press had service fees, so I ended up paying more money, right? But I really enjoyed their team and the way they worked with me. They helped me with promotion and marketing. They set me up with a proper ISBN number for the book, helped me with the formatting for the electronic version as well, and put it online in different retailers so that I can have other stores stock my book. Here in Canada, ISBN numbers are actually free. I know in the States you do have to pay for ISBN numbers. I'm grateful that I don't have to. It's free. You just have to register for one, essentially. Again, if I had done a little bit more research, I could have just had an ISBN number for my first book. Those are kind of the differences that you can see between self-publishing and indie publishing. Indie publishing, you're working with a press that can help you out with certain things that you would typically be doing all on your own for self-publishing. There are pros and cons to both. It really depends on your preference, which is why I recommend doing as much research as you can. It's really important to not just jump in with the first suggestion you get. If you want to find the right process for you. As an independent author, you aren't guaranteed any book launch events or signings, but for me, I really wanted to have that, and so I ended up producing them myself. With my first book launch, I had help from a friend who is a local event producer here. They really helped me build some connections and some knowledge about how to produce an event like this. Their help and their knowledge was really beneficial for me as a producer now that I can do this on my own. So we had my first launch event at a local cafe and bookstore. Unfortunately, it's been closed down now, which is really disappointing, but we hosted a 2-hour event there. My friend interviewed me and took some questions from the audience. I read the first chapter of my book, and then we did a book signing. I also ended up having a book signing in the small town of Westport, Ontario. It is a place that is near and dear to my heart. A family friend of mine actually reached out and wanted to host an event there for me, and so with the help of them, I ended up having a whole book signing there, which is super cool. I've done a few markets since then as well. Sometimes markets can be difficult because the tables can be so expensive, and as an author, it's really hard to gauge whether or not you're gonna make that money back. I've gotten tables for $40, $50, $60, and I know that if I sell at least 3 books, I break even, at the very least. Obviously, you wanna profit, but if you can get your books into more hands, I think that's important. Anything more than that is a gamble for me, because I know that not everyone is going to be a book lover. When it comes to events and markets, you really gotta play it by ear, and you gotta prioritize what you think is right for you. If you have the time and you have a little bit of extra money that you can spend at these markets or booking a venue for an event, I really recommend it. I think that as long as you can get the word out for your books and make community contacts, not only are you going to be selling your books and your writing is going to be out there, but I think it's also going to make you feel good inside. I hope that you could glean some information from this video. I tried to go into detail about the whole process from start to finish. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to answer questions or chat about this longer. For now, I think I've hit what I wanted to talk about and what I think is most important for an aspiring author who's thinking about self-publishing. But as I said, please do your research. Don't let this be the only video that you watch on the subject. I am not an expert. I just said what has been my experience, which is very different from everyone else. If you guys are interested in more of my content and in my writing, please consider subscribing and liking this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!